Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hey folks, you're listening to the Dork Forest, or about to. The websites, JackieCation.com, DorkForest.com, TheDorkForest.com, if you like determiners, FamilyPetAncestry.com, if you like jokes, because that just leads you to JackieCation.com. Those are the websites. The credits, Mike Rickberg composed and sang that song you just heard. He sang it with his wife, Sarah Cohen. He'll sing the song at the end, his words to the Mexican hat dance. Patrick Brady fixes this audio. Vilmos fixes my website, JackieCation.com. There's several ways to support the show if you want to support the show. Most basic way, the PayPal button. Donate. Knock yourselves out. There's a PayPal button on JackieCation.com and DorkForest.com. You can also Venmo me at Jackie@JackieCation.com, where you can also email me and say things. Another way to support the show, pretty painless, the Amazon button. On both JackieCation.com and DorkForest.com, there's a link, a banner to the Amazon page where you just order like normal. Doesn't cost you extra. It just supports the show. There is also merch, whole merch situation. You can get Ranger of the Dork Forest t-shirts. You can get Dork Forest t-shirts. You can get my stand-up comedy t-shirts. All the t-shirts are union made here in the United States of America, so they run a little big because they're made by Americans. There's also my CDs and my DVD. All of that is available digitally as well, but if you want hard copies, you go to JackieCation.com, the merch page. Not available on the merch page are a couple of enamel pins that I haven't added to the merch page yet, and they are Meat Shield pins and Spooky Reading Girl pins. Email me, Jackie@JackieCation.com, if you want those pins. There's also a calendar of my stand-up comedy. Golden opportunity to see me live. And there are premium episodes of The Dork Forest, which are episodes that I've taped live, and they cost me a couple of bucks to make, so I charge you a couple of bucks for them. So if you've run through all of the free ones, go to thedorkforest.bandcamp.com and get a live premium episode if you'd like. The YouTube page is on fire. That's right. There's teaser clips on the Jackie Cation Dork Forest YouTube page, but there's also the entire episode, the whole episode of the Dork Forest are now uploaded to YouTube. So if you can't listen to iTunes or whatever at work, you can just have this on in the background with a beautiful picture of the guest and the logo. Enough already. I'm probably missing something, but let's get into the show. Hey, it's Jackie Cation. I'm in my stateroom here at the Joco Cruise, still doing Dork Forest. Turns out I could do 1,780 of them, but we're going to call it 6. This particular trip. And this might be the last one, though if I can do more, there's only 12 more hours of this cruise, and I plan on sleeping some of it.
That's
Pavel,
such a waste.
I know. Pavel Curtis, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Pavel Curtis is Pavel Curtis, and it is spelled Pavel, and then Curtis, Curtis, and that's your Twitter handle.
It is.
And you make, play, and think about puzzles.
Nearly all of the time.
Puzzle guy, Pavel Curtis. And you can go to Pavel's Puzzles, Pavel, Puzzles, Puzzles.com. And there's a whole website dedicated to such things that you enjoy.
Yes, totally so.
Here's what you should know about me, Jackie Cation. I'm terrible at puzzles.
You know, people say that. I get that a lot.
Oh, do you?
Totally. People hear that. People tell me that all the time. Oh, I'm really bad at puzzles. And what it really means is, in almost all cases, is basically you aren't interested enough in puzzles to put the time in, the patience in, to
You know what it is?
them.
It might be, yes. I think what it is it's a polite way of saying, I'm psyched you like this thing. It's not for me.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and I think the sad part about it, I'm perfectly fine with people deciding they just aren't interested in puzzles.
Right.
Totally. Everybody's got their own thing. What's sad is a lot of people have said, have taken it and internalized it.
Oh, right.
Said,
They're beating themselves up.
I can't do puzzles. I'm not smart enough to do puzzles.
Oh, right.
And I hate that. They are.
I'm
and
super
maybe
smart.
They simply haven't found the puzzle type that would appeal to them.
Right.
Or they don't consider that a puzzle. I've
Right.
had people try to convince me, oh, but I love Sudoku, but that's not really puzzles.
Sudoku, I think, is a puzzle.
I'm pretty sure.
When I learned how to play Sudoku, by the way, Andy taught me how to play Sudoku, my husband, and he loves a Sudoku. He loves a crossword. He loves an escape room. And what he loves is not puzzles so much as games.
Yeah.
But puzzles are games.
They are.
There's a game mechanic there that you have to figure out how to play it.
And there's even the interpersonal aspect of it. A friend of mine who is a longtime puzzle creator, Mike Selinker, says a puzzle is a battle between the poser and the solver.
Oh.
That the poser must lose. Right? You have to make the puzzle to be solved.
Right.
It's supposed to be a really interesting battle, but you have to lose in the end.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to just defeat people, it's easy to make a really, really hard puzzle.
Right.
That's easy to do. It's not necessarily any fun.
Right. And now, I suppose the making of puzzles has got to be something where, because you have to let somebody into your brain.
Yeah, or you have to sort of pretend to be in theirs.
Okay.
You're going to lay down a path of here is the experience I want you to have while solving this. I want you to discover this.
Yep.
And then when you discover that, you'll see that it links up to this. And then I want you to discover this. And you're really laying out this whole journey, this whole story that you want them to experience in solving the puzzle. And that's more obvious in certain kinds of logic puzzles or certain kinds of the physical puzzles that I make, which are multiple stages and have very distinct structure to them. Less true in like a crossword puzzle, but even there, the average crossword puzzle these days has a theme. There are a set of theme entries.
Oh, right.
And I want you to have a certain experience with how you discover what the theme really is.
Okay.
Sort of cotton on to the trick that's going on. And you have to think about that if you're going to make a puzzle that's going to be fun for people to solve.
Now, this is fascinating, but allow me to step back one step because, you know what, when I was the first thing some people might think of when they think of puzzles are literally pieces.
Jigsaw puzzles.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes,
The
my
vast majority
mother-in-law.
of people, you say the word puzzle, they believe you mean jigsaw puzzle.
Right, and jigsaw puzzles are puzzles.
Oh, they certainly are.
They
Absolutely.
pieces need to be put together.
Yeah,
so
totally.
that is its own game.
It is.
This is really not that's not really what you make.
I have made jigsaws.
Okay.
And I'm happy to do that. I've done custom jigsaws where I took, for example, a friend's book cover. Her first book came out, and I
that's neat.
Made a puzzle out of the cover of her book with little pieces that were interesting shapes based on characters from the book.
Oh, that's cool.
And so forth. And so it's a very personal sort of gift. So totally a puzzle. Not my usual thing, because most of them are fairly repetitive in what's going on.
Right, there's I'm actually pretty good at jigsaw puzzles, but I don't, but it's sort of, it feels like like they give them to small children. They're like, here's a puzzle.
Sure.
And then you learn it's sort of like the very first games you play, where you learn how to do a thing, how to play a game when they give you a game. You learn how to do a puzzle when they give you a starter puzzle.
And it's a kind of puzzle that is highly aesthetic, right? We're making a picture, typically.
Yeah.
It really privileges your visual cortex, right? Seeing patterns and seeing things emerge. It's not so much deductive.
Right.
Very often, usually not. But it's more.
It's kind of matching.
It is. It's matching and it's intuiting a larger picture and so forth. But it's not a sort of logical thing. In fact, we usually get trapped or tricked by puzzle makers because they will cut the piece boundary right around the edge of that piece of color, and we'll tell ourselves, well, it has to have more of the pink.
Yeah.
But no. They saw you coming there. They knew what you did. Yeah.
They saw you coming, you guys. And no, I love that. Okay, so I know that I did an episode many years ago on the Dork Forest with a woman who loved, it looks like a crossword puzzle, but it's a math thing.
Sure, cross-number puzzles.
Cross-number puzzle, yeah. And so I want to ask about 19 different puzzles at once, Pavel.
I get that. And there's such a wide range of types of puzzles. And just to give a sense of the breadth of things that I do and that constitute puzzles, on paper, we've got things like Sudoku, and there's a huge range of logic puzzles that are like that. We see in the New York Times they have Ken, and sometimes Kakuro, and a few other of these Japanese words. We see crossword puzzles, the jumble. Right. There's 100 million kinds of word puzzles and so forth. There are all sorts of these cross-number type things. And then we get into...
Because those are pen and paper ones.
Those are pen and paper puzzles. And there are a whole variety. I mean, all the way down to things like you see in Highlights magazine of, here's two pictures, find the differences.
Oh, right.
Right, those are puzzles, clearly.
Oh, that's
hidden
right.
Object
hidden objects.
Right.
I play a hidden object video game called Criminal Case.
There are several of those, several apps like that. So those count as puzzles. And then we get into the world of physical puzzles, and we got everything from like a Rubik's Cube, get the ring off of something that's
some sort of wooden, like jumble of wooden things where you need to get the ring.
Interlocking wooden pieces, or they're the tavern puzzles where you've got this thing with lots of metal parts and one of them comes off.
That's right.
Or there are puzzle. They're called puzzle vessels. They're like a jug for pouring water, except if you don't know the trick, you'll pour it all over yourself. Or the Chinese had a long tradition of puzzle vessels where your job was to fill the kettle because there's no opening.
Oh, really?
Right. You just look at this and there's no opening. And some of them you have to turn the thing upside down and pour it from the bottom, and it goes around some set of internal baffles or something.
Right.
And now you can turn it right side up and you have a full kettle, but
and it
with
doesn't.
no opening.
That is some serious downtime.
Oh, yeah.
That's like, it's going to be winter for a long time. I'm going to make a puzzle.
Yeah.
It has to be sort of how it happened, too, because people are like, it's nighttime. There's just going to sit by the fire and make a thing.
Exactly. And what we have, and I think in the case of the Chinese, it was a court thing.
Oh, okay.
Here is this beautiful thing. Some of these things are like painted very delicately, like peaches.
Right.
And it's not interrupted by any seam.
There's no seams?
Right. So it's an aesthetic choice first. And then, I guess it's a puzzling object. And we see that repeated in other things. There's a whole realm of puzzle locks. Mm-hmm.
Da Vinci Code.
Of years old. Some things like the Da Vinci Code, the thing that everybody thinks of in Da Vinci Code, the cryptex with the letters that turned around, that was invented. They didn't exist.
That's not real.
Well, it didn't. Now it is.
Well, now
because he did it,
right? Because Dan Brown made up a thing.
He made up a thing.
Okay.
But puzzle locks, it used to be that you needed security, and you needed security beyond just how nasty a key is this.
Yeah.
And so there would be locks that have multiple tricks to them, like there's the obvious keyhole, but that's not the real keyhole. You can shift something over here, and another keyhole appears because there's a secret hatch.
Okay.
And so you have these things, and the collectors of those, there are people making modern ones where they're actually intending this, but all of the old ones, which go 200-300 years old, and they cover the world. I mean, there are Indian locks and Chinese locks, and
like every
European
culture
locks
has made them.
Has made complicated locks, and misleading locks. Purely for real security.
Right, because sometimes people want to steal stuff.
That happens. It does happen.
And historically, bad guys have been trying to steal stuff for 10,000 years.
There's a thing called, we know about, from mostly movies, secret compartments in boxes or in desks or whatever.
Right, walls that move and...
Right, or, if we stick to furniture for just a moment.
Furniture.
Right, so you've got like a desk with hidden places where you can put your secret papers.
Oh, right.
Right, which is, again, it's there for actual security.
Yes.
It's not supposed to be an amusement.
It's not a game.
You don't show it off.
Right.
It's your security.
Yeah.
Right. But we have on ship, on sailing vessels, the captain would often have a lockable box that was screwed into the deck. So you couldn't lift the box away. But getting to the screws involved a whole set of secret compartments and trick things and having a key for this and so forth.
Oh, because people want to take the whole box.
Because they want to take the whole box because they can't get the box open.
Okay.
Right. And so there's just a whole bunch of these things where security led to creating objects that are meant to be misleading.
Right.
And now to us they are puzzles.
Now they are puzzles.
And you can collect these things as well.
Right.
And of course, now people make all kinds of trick opening boxes. There's a vast set of things. Japan has had trick opening boxes with beautiful inlay and
beautiful lacquer
for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And those are still made in exactly the traditional fashion. But over the course of the 20th century, a whole bunch of people started saying, well, let's re-examine that and do more and different and interesting things. Mm-hmm. And they go crazy places. I have a Japanese box that it's all black. It's this beautiful black wood, except that there are little tiny circles made of holly, of white holly, inlaid into the top in the shape of the Little Dipper and the North Star.
Huh.
And the only way to open the box is to set it on a table perfectly level and orient it so that the North Star is facing north, I kid you not. And now the side panel will slide down a little bit and the top will open. There's actually a compass, mechanical compass built into the box. These are
That's
things of
super
beautiful.
neat.
These things of beauty.
Yeah.
There's another one from the same maker, a fellow named Akio Kame. It looks like a large die, like a pair of dice.
Yeah.
And it's made out of beautiful walnut, again, holly pips, so there's nice white pips.
Yeah.
And the trick to opening it is to discover that, unlike on a normal die, opposite sides don't add to 7.
Okay.
And that's always what we expect out of a normal die.
Six-sided die?
Typical 6-sided die.
Yeah.
And the way you solve his puzzle is you hold it with the 1 pip up, give it a little shake, slowly rotate it to have the 2 pip up, shake, 3, 4, 5, 6, and after that last shake, you can slide the bottom panel and then the side panel goes down. And I don't even know what's inside this box.
Right.
Right, how it's done, because you get the thing open and it doesn't reveal anything.
Of how they did it.
No, you get to see some inner.
It's like
chamber.
magic.
It is.
Yeah.
And a lot of puzzles have that kind of feel to them.
Yeah.
There's an old puzzle that I sell. It's over 100 years old. It's literally a stick with a loop of string on one end.
Yeah.
And the loop of string, the total size of the loop is shorter than the stick.
Okay.
And you can walk up to somebody like here on the cruise where people are all wearing lanyards, or if somebody's got a shirt with a buttonhole, and you can do some manipulation that they don't quite catch, and the stick is tied onto their buttonhole or their lanyard. And now you can just sort of walk away. And they can't seem to take it off.
It's just stuck there.
It's just stuck there. And it seems like a magic trick because, of course, you've done
it's just a piece of string
it's a
wrapped
stick
around.
And a piece of string. It is the simplest mechanically, simplest puzzle. And it's brilliant. It's been fooling people for 100 years.
Yeah.
And it's literally called the buttonhole puzzle, and that's why. Because
Okay.
100 years ago, you'd be at a fancy dress party, you walk up to some guy, tie it onto his lapel buttonhole, and walk away. And he's stuck. His ensemble is completely destroyed because there's a stick hanging off his chest, and he can't do anything about it. Everybody has a great time except him.
Except him, which I'm a huge non-fan of practical jokes, but but I understand that some people really like them.
Yeah.
So we're gonna let people like them.
That's right.
And so those are all physical, and that's got to be also the origin of some like magic tricks where you're like, I'm going to saw somebody in half, or illusion kind of based.
I hesitate to equate them too much. My magician friends have a strong opinion that
fair enough.
There's a trick, there's misdirection, that's a thing.
Okay.
That's not exactly what you're doing with your confusing puzzle.
Oh, right, because
so they
it's
have a very
not just the
specific
box.
meaning
It turns
to
out
what that is.
the magician itself, he or she is a magician. They are manipulating space and time as well.
They think misdirection is a very specialized thing.
I don't think they're wrong.
And the confusing things that we're doing, we might, in sort of normal parlance, think of that as misdirection. They say, it's confusing. That's not what we mean when we say misdirection.
It's defined differently.
It's defined differently.
Fair enough.
But that being said, a lot of stage magicians really love puzzles.
Right. Well, yeah, because it was it Penn or Teller, the one who talks, was talking about how he said it's a very specific task. It's a specific. To become a magician is such a solo activity because you have to practice a lot of up close. You're in front of a mirror for hours a day.
Yeah.
Watching yourself in the mirror as you do different moves. He's like, it doesn't really encourage a lot of social activity. And so he was like, so it's a very specific thing.
Yeah. But, so I guess getting back to earlier, my point is there's this huge range of puzzles. There are packing puzzles. Can you get all the pieces into the box? Can you get them all into the tray? Interlocking puzzles like those beautiful wooden puzzles you see with 6 sticks with notches on them.
Yeah.
And try to get that thing together. And there's just a really wide variety of physical puzzles. There's a wide variety of paper and pencil puzzles. There's jigsaws, which are physical, clearly, but don't seem like the others in another way.
Let's go real big. Let's go big. Mazes.
Totally, yeah.
Like those are like hedgerow mazes where people have a lot of land and they're going to cut themselves a puzzle into their yard.
Yeah, hedge mazes and cornfield mazes.
Have you?
I've done several of them. Oddly enough, you go to a puzzle convention, and that seems like a great excursion.
Yeah, that would be a thing.
It would be
You're
a
like,
thing.
hey, is there a puzzle maze in this? Is there a hedge maze in this town? Yeah. Because of course there's puzzle cons. Why wouldn't there be a puzzle con?
Totally. There's so many of them. And here's a funny thing: my interests in puzzles are pretty universal. I kind of like all of them.
Okay.
I will admit, jigsaws are a much more occasional thing for me. For me, that's got to be a social thing. Let's get together and do a jigsaw.
Right.
But I like them all.
Yeah.
I go to a lot of puzzle conventions, though, and you'd be amazed, or at least I am.
Yeah.
There's so little overlap in attendees between those conventions. So I go to the International Puzzle Party, which is an annual event bringing together serious collectors of mechanical puzzles, physical puzzles.
Okay. What town does that move?
That moves around. So
okay.
Every year it rotates between the U.S., Asia, and Europe.
Okay, because that's got to be a very big deal.
It is.
Yeah.
That's
because physical puzzles.
It's big from our perspective, but it's, I guess in the grand scheme it's pretty small. It's actually going to be in one of the hotels that was part of the cruise, the Wyndham Hotel in San Diego.
Oh, in San Diego.
This summer we're going back to the Wyndham.
Excellent.
For the International Puzzle Party.
How many people go to
we have about 250 puzzlers and about 100 or 150 family members and so forth who come with it.
So it's under 500 people.
Yeah, it's not huge. It's
not huge. A 500-person con.
Oh, yeah.
Because then you get to see the same people and you really get to talk to people.
It's very low-key.
That's awesome.
And that's actually quite a wonderful event. I'll tell you more about that in a second. Another con that I go to is the National Puzzlers League, which is the oldest puzzle-based organization in the United States.
Okay.
The one that we will have this year, which is going to be in Milwaukee, is, I think, the 178th annual convention.
Really?
So that's a super old event.
National Puzzle League.
National Puzzlers League.
Puzzlers.
Yeah.
I'm from Milwaukee.
Puzzlers.org. Oh, are you?
Yes.
Well, there you go.
So,
we're going to be in your old stomping grounds.
Maybe I'll tell my nephews to dash off to the National Puzzlers League.
Yeah, if they go to puzzlers.org, they can find out all about it.
It's one of them's really into anything, and the other one's really into chess. So they might like puzzles.
They might well. So National Puzzlers League is primarily centered around word puzzles.
Okay.
So crosswords, cryptic crosswords or British-style crosswords, puns, anagrams, word puzzles.
Yeah.
The number of people who go to both National Puzzlers League and the International Puzzle Party, the physical puzzle.
Yeah.
It's less than can be counted on one hand.
Oh, wow.
There's hardly any overlap at all. You talk to the people at the International Puzzle Party about this. They say, oh, yeah, I don't do that kind of puzzle.
Right.
And the other direction is, I dabble, but...
Yeah.
And they're just so completely separate. Whereas for me, it tickles the same itch both ways.
You're like, I need to go talk to people about puzzles.
Period.
Any kind of puzzles.
It's all good.
Right. That's why you're on the Dork Forest, Pavel. It's Pavel Curtis, by the way. You should probably be reminded. PavelPuzzles.com. And what about So, I mean, the thing about puzzles is, I think, is because they can be done, because you mentioned how Jigsaw Puzzles is more of a community or a social event. It can be, all puzzles can be done in either alone or with others.
Some are better for, much harder to do with a group.
Okay.
So a Rubik's Cube is a great example. Only
almost
one person
impossible
can hold that die.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, people can kibitz. They can tell you, hey, try twisting this.
A backseat video game play.
But it's, it really doesn't work that way. I've been recently creating a series of puzzles, of the physical puzzles, that are designed to be solved by a group. In fact,
neat.
It's much more fun with a group.
Like a cooperative board game.
It is very much like that. So I have a puzzle that came out last year, I guess, called Banana Split. Because once you come up with a name like that,
you're like that. You just can't. That's leaving money on the table.
I gotta have that.
Banana Split.
That. Yeah, so Banana Split.
Okay.
Which consists of 16 large cards that have pictures on each edge and extra letters and stuff. Who knows? And no instructions. It does come with 4 little hint cards that are in little sleeves, so you don't get spoiled unless you decide to pull the card.
Right. Yeah.
And initially, what people are doing with that is trying to match up the cards and form a bigger arrangement of the cards where something interesting is happening between the pictures. I don't try not to say too much about what's happening because that's part of the solve. And initially, you've got 16 cards, 4 pictures on every card, so many ways they could come together. It's really hard for any one person to see things and make the connections.
Yeah.
Because these are kind of aha connections. But if you have 4 to 6 people there, why then that's great. You have a lot more eyeballs taking a look, and the odds go up dramatically. Someone will see something, get an idea.
More people.
Somebody else will then be able to play off of that idea and see more stuff, and you'll start working out together. What are the rules here? What are we really trying to do?
And that's how the puzzle is designed.
That's how it's designed to be done.
Interesting.
And so it's a puzzle that's designed to be a party activity.
Okay.
And I first created that puzzle on a commission, a version of that puzzle that's evolved a lot since the original one, a commission for somebody who wanted some entertainment at their wedding reception. And so they wanted to have a puzzle at each table that people could work on, and because you're sitting at a wedding reception, oftentimes you're just sitting around a lot, and they weren't dancers, so getting people up and dancing, which what are your odds there? 30%, 40%.
Right.
So they asked me to create a puzzle for them, and they said, well, our crowd likes wordplay.
Okay.
So, wordplay. I can work with this.
Yeah. It's just point me in a direction.
That's right. And I've now done, I think, 4 wedding commissions. I don't know so which is great.
That makes so much sense, though, because people want their weddings to be fun.
Yeah.
And there's only a couple of different ways. Like if all of your friends are dancers, you have a band.
Right.
If all your friends are drinkers, you have an open bar. If all your friends are D&D players, you have a giant set of dice that you roll, which is what we did.
Yeah.
And or eaters, which is we also got married at a dim sum restaurant.
Oh, wonderful.
So the food never stopped. My ad. We're about to do an ad. Hey guys, it's Jackie Cation. And today's ad is for Secret deodorant. It's a new active deodorant for women made by Secret. Remember Secret? It's a secret. Here's the thing about the Secret, is that it uses sweat-activated technology. So it's odor-neutralizing molecules to trap odor, lock it away, replaces it with a fragrance. That's right. I looked into the ingredients in this thing, and it's good. So I'm looking forward to use it. I myself do not work out. It could be fitness, but it doesn't have to be. Because most of us are moving around during the day at some point, doing something. I hope so. At the very least, just can go get a cup of coffee. Really? All right. I'm not active myself, but I still need a good deodorant because on stage, I tend to sweat a lot. So if your heart rate goes up, Secret Active is designed with long-lasting scents, which provides a constant reassurance that it's working so that you don't have to reapply the deodorant every time your heart rate goes up. Buy some. You could pick some up today at your local retailer. Secret Active is the new deodorant, and you should buy some. Now, let's get back into the show. But have you ever heard of a game called 5-Card Nancy? No. Remember Nancy, the comic strip Nancy?
Sure, with Sluggo. Yeah.
With Sluggo. What you do is you get a book of Nancy comics. You
Okay.
print them on cardstock. You cut out the panels.
Oh.
You are handed a handful of Nancy cards, of Nancy and Sluggo and all the characters, and then you build a comic strip as a group.
Ah, nice.
Always dick jokes. Just going to let you know. Almost always turns
Good to
into
know.
something filthy.
Good to know.
Almost immediately.
I want to pick your audience for that one. Yeah.
Right. If you're working with children, you could probably keep it less blue.
Yeah, probably
But
so.
yes, and please do.
Yeah, right.
What about escape rooms?
Love them.
Yeah?
Love them. I mean, I'm not...
Where do you live? I'm sorry.
I live in Seattle.
Okay.
We have a bunch up there. We have some really good ones up there. I've done maybe a dozen, so not a huge number, but
Right.
I'm not a newbie.
I've done 3
either.
Yeah, or
but-
2.
So I'm not
maybe.
I know you had Tyler Hinman on.
Yes, that was his
Off the
dorkdom.
charts
That episode, Rangers, that Tyler episode about escape rooms was fascinating. It was done on the Joko Cruise last year.
Yeah, I remember.
And then I found out minute 40 that he often or will submit word crossword puzzles to the New York Times.
Yep.
And has been accepted.
Oh, yeah.
He has written several crossword puzzles for the New York Times. And I was like,
for other outlets, yeah.
why weren't we talking about this? I said to him. And he goes, I don't want to. I want to talk about escape rooms. I ran into him on the stairs, by the way. I was like, I know that face. Can't remember. And he was like,
That's right.
Tyler, escape rooms.
So
I
I
was
like
"That's
escape
it."
rooms, and I think escape rooms are really interesting. I think that we're going to see, or that we're now entering a period of a kind of shakeout. Not that companies will be leaving. Well, always there will be companies leaving, but there are different reasons that people like escape rooms. We did a room, some friends of mine and I, in Atlanta, that was really heavily role-playing based.
Okay.
It took place in a TV newsroom, and so there's the anchor desk, and there's a camera made of wood, and
of
so
course.
forth. And a lot of what you needed to do involved role-playing somebody giving a newscast. In fact, they wouldn't accept an answer to a puzzle unless somebody was reporting it as news and somebody was behind the camera and somebody else was acting as a director and so forth. So they were really aiming at that. And what we had was a group of people who just wanted to solve the puzzles. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Escape from the room. It was totally not our cup of tea.
Right. It wasn't a LARPing
But for
acting
another
crowd.
set of people,
Yeah.
right, that would have been perfect because the puzzles were not that deep.
Right.
And so it was much more of the role play. And I feel like this is a genre that's going to finally get some definition. And
That's
we'll start
kind of
having names for this is this kind of an escape room. This is a
Yeah,
puzzle
yeah.
escape room, and so forth. But I think it hasn't quite happened yet. But it's there's. So
But it could
popular.
easily-
It could. It could.
Yeah.
And I think that will help the market a lot. But I've created props for
different.
a couple escape rooms in the Seattle area.
Neat.
Yeah, they're very careful. They give me code names for everything that I'll be making for them, and they tell me nothing about how it will actually be used in the room. They sort of describe what they need.
Right.
So I created a thing called a garden box.
Okay.
I
Don't know why
what
it's
that's going to be, a
called.
garden box, but I made a box, and it was a certain way, and they said,
Right.
oh, that's perfect.
That's
and-
perfect. We're going to paint a flower on it.
And we
See ya.
thought we might want a thing on top that was had little holes for hands to go in to the little compartments in the box, but it turns out that's too hard.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know why that would be hard. I
Right.
have no idea. You know?
Oh, that's hilarious.
So they've protected me very nicely.
So you could how funny would it be if you went into an escape room and saw one of your own puzzles there?
Well, that's going to happen at some point because
Yeah.
they're in my town. I'm going to go do their puzzle.
You're going to go do their puzzle one day, and you're like, I actually know how this one works.
No, I don't. I just know what the prop is. They have
Oh,
protected me from knowing what the puzzle is that they're using the prop for.
oh,
So I know
Okay.
nothing. They've completely preserved me. They haven't spoiled me on it.
okay. So it's not a wooden
Yeah.
ring off the stick thing.
Mostly, that's true. I think I did. I know of one prop that I did for them that
that you could take apart,
Yeah,
and you
I
would
know what
get
it's for.
and you know what it's for. But for the most part, they're trying to let you still play the
Oh,
game.
yeah, totally.
Oh, that's
It's a
kind of
wonderful
awesome too.
relationship,
That's
so,
wonderful.
you know.
Yes. So logic puzzles.
Logic puzzles.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about those, just because.
I have long loved there's a whole genre of Japanese logic puzzles like Sudoku, which has a Japanese name but actually wasn't invented in Japan. It's just nobody else appreciated it. It got over
What's
to
the
Japan.
Japanese name?
The Japanese name is Sudoku.
Oh.
That's a Japanese word.
Oh, and Sudoku was not invented in...
It wasn't invented in Japan. It was invented in England.
But nobody gave a damn.
And nobody cared.
And the Japanese were like,
a guy from
no.
Japan imported the thing and said, oh, no, this is really big.
This will be for us.
Yeah.
And then we'll bring it back out again.
That's right.
And
there's literally hundreds of other puzzles that are in the same sort of genre as Sudoku, but aren't Sudoku.
Now,
puzzles where you're filling in certain squares black based on certain constraints that are built into the grid. Ones where you're drawing a loop through some squares of the grid. Ones where you are trying to draw the path that different tokens are going to move within this grid, and they're not allowed to touch one another, and there are certain constraints.
I've often...
On and on and on.
I've found that sometimes the directions of how to play a game in the back of the green pages, essentially, in the back of the comics, is not clear enough.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I
totally.
had to be shown how to play Sudoku. I was like, okay, so here's a box that has 9 squares. There's a 1 and a 7 and a 3 in that box. There are clearly 6 other spaces that have no numbers in them. You have to find the numbers 1 through 9 and put them in the right spots. And then there's, depending on how hard the Sudoku thing is, it could be 3 across, three big squares of 9 across, and 3 down.
Right, that's the classic Sudoku.
That's the classic. That's the one I've played. And I usually play easy to medium just because I get frustrated.
Oh, yeah.
But it's super fun and very satisfying.
Totally.
To finish all of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so I would go to Japan occasionally. I've been to Japan maybe 4 or 5 times. And
in search of puzzles?
For a variety of things. I was there for my day job at one point, and I went into a Japanese newsstand magazine shop and so forth, and managed to convey to them that I wanted to find puzzle magazines because I knew they must exist.
Yes.
And I picked up a Japanese puzzle magazine, and it had 35 different kinds of puzzles in it. And, of course, all the directions are in Japanese.
Right.
And so I got to have this fun puzzle, meta puzzle. They have an example.
Okay.
Here's a tiny grid.
Yeah.
As it starts, here's what it looks like after the first few steps, and here's the final thing.
Right.
And that plus the occasional recognizable character in the middle of the Japanese opacity was all I got. And, of course, 4 or 5 puzzles of that type on the page, which I could sort of work my way through and discover, I could solve the first one based on what I worked out.
Right.
But the second one, there must be another rule that I haven't seen yet.
Right.
What's going on? And so you have to work out what's the right kind of rule that would make this work. And I just fell in love with it. The first time I bought one of those, it's a 100-page magazine full of these sorts of puzzles. And I almost literally did nothing other than solve puzzles in that book, like all day long.
Right. For days.
Because days and days. And so that's how I discovered that this world, so much bigger than Sudoku.
Right.
Because all of them are different.
What is Ken-Ken?
Ken-Ken is a kind of puzzle. There have been a variety of types that are like it. You take a small grid, let's say a 6x6 grid, not very big, and you break it up into little regions. It's already broken up for you into little regions. And so maybe 2 squares in a region or 3 squares in a region. And inside each region, there's a little bit of math. It'll say something like a times sign and 25.
Okay.
And all you know is that means that within that region, you're going to be putting in numbers that multiply out to 25.
Okay, so fives and fives.
Right. So it'll be
or whatever.
And the extra constraint is that in this 6x6 grid, you will have 1 of each number in every row and every column.
Ah.
Okay. And so you have a whole set of these constraints. These are arithmetic constraints, and what we call a Latin square constraint, like a Sudoku, of no repeating a number within a row or a column.
Okay.
That notion of the Latin square constraint appears in a lot of different kinds of logic puzzles.
Right, because I didn't describe that in the Sudoku description.
But that's there,
But that's there, of
right.
course.
So it's the similar sort of thing. And so that's Ken. It got put in a particular form and then copyrighted by a company, and that's the ones that they run in the Times. But there's a variety of other similar puzzles that have been around for a while.
Okay.
But that's what that is. And they run them in the Times because between the Latin square constraint, which is so familiar from Sudoku, and the fact that it's still using numbers, it appeals to many of the same people as Sudoku.
Right.
And so that works well for them. But there are a bunch of logic puzzle types that have no numbers in them.
No numbers?
No numbers at all.
Right, because you were talking about something where you had to fill in a square.
Right. So as an example, there's a puzzle type called Masyu, Masyu. It's Japanese.
Sure.
And you have a big grid, and in some of the squares there are white circles, and in some of the squares there are black circles. And that's what the whole grid looks like when you're done.
I've seen that.
When you start.
I've.
And your job is to draw a loop passing through some set of the squares in there, a single loop. It's not allowed to cross itself. It can't sort of touch itself. And you can't have two loops, just one loop.
It's one loop that could be amoeba-shaped. It doesn't matter.
Very, very amoeba-shaped. Very
Okay.
twisted. It must pass through every single circle.
Okay.
In white circles, it's not allowed to turn, but it must turn either just before or just after it.
What?
And in black circles, it must turn.
Okay.
And it can't turn either just before or just after it.
Oh my God.
Okay? And that's your constraints.
Okay.
Now you go and you figure out how to draw that loop.
Then you go fight that fight.
Then you fight that fight.
Okay.
And so that's an example of a loop drawing puzzle. And
Right.
there's a whole subgenre of those. There's must be 20 or 30.
Where the rules change about the turning
rules are all
and
different,
then going
what
through
the
and
clues look like are different, and so forth. There's a whole bunch of those.
Okay.
There are puzzles where all you need to do is color some squares black, and there are clues for that. Sometimes they're about, now that you've colored some squares black, you've isolated these white areas, and each one has to contain a number, and that number has to be the size of its area.
Okay. Okay.
Right? So, okay.
Yeah.
You get things like that. And on and on and on. So every one of them has different rules, and there are hundreds, literally hundreds of these kinds of puzzles. So I love these things. I got this magazine.
Right.
I already knew about some of these things, but oh my God, now there were 35 in this magazine. I just thought I'd seen the whole world. And then, of course, the next issue would come out, because the next time I was in Japan, I said,
Right.
I want more of that stuff.
Yeah.
And 20 of them I recognized because they repeated them.
Sure.
And there are another 20 that were completely new to me.
New puzzles, not just new versions of the puzzle.
That's right. New kinds of puzzles.
New kinds
sets
of-
of rules. Right. You got.
Wow.
Yeah. And so there are literally hundreds of sets of rules.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I've loved these for a long time.
Yeah.
5 years ago, a friend of mine was going through a bookstore in Seattle and saw that they had a set of physical puzzles on top of one of their bookcases that they were selling. And he mentioned to them that, if you were interested, there's a very geeky bookstore.
Sure.
Called Ada's Technical Books.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not Elliot, whatever?
No, it's not Elliott Bay.
Yeah.
They're lovely people.
Good. Everybody.
But this was a different one.
Almost all bookstore owners are.
That's right. And so he said to them, would you be interested in physical puzzles by a local maker? And they said, oh, yes, absolutely.
was
and so
nice.
he put us in touch.
Yes.
And so we started talking, and we started talking about them wholesaling some of my physical puzzles, which worked out great. As it turned out, they were just about to move into a new space. They'd been in this really tiny space, and they were going to move into a brand new space. And they had a whole bunch of ideas for what they wanted to do with the new space. And they wanted to do something puzzly.
Okay.
And I suggested a monthly puzzle, and so they could have them in paper sheets on a document dispenser or something, and people could solve it while they're sitting in the attached cafe.
Yep.
And if they solve it, they get a free coffee drink.
Right.
Right. Something like that.
Some trinket.
And they said, and I said, I have a friend who's done something similar with a bagel shop in the area. He has these crosswords. And they said, well, I don't know if crosswords. For us, a logic puzzle would be better. And I was like, well, as it happens, I have a heck of a lot more experience with logic puzzles.
Yeah.
And so with creating logic puzzles. And so we created a series. And at the very last minute, 2 days before their grand opening, when the first puzzle was going to be appearing, I had this kind of brainstorm. And I said, the bookstore is Ada's Technical Books. It's
right.
named after Ada Lovelace, the daughter of Lord Byron.
Oh, that's right.
World's first computer programmer in 1843.
Stumbled on the documentary.
Yeah. So
as I
she's
did.
a wonderful, interesting character. And the bookstore is in honor of her. So there's a portrait of her up on the wall, and it's all about. It's started by a woman. It's about women in science and so forth.
Neat.
And so, I had this obvious sort of brainstorm. What if we pretend the puzzle was written by Ada Lovelace?
Yeah.
And I could write a little letter, gentle solver. And she would lay out how she was inspired to create the puzzle. And
my father slept around and had some issues. And yes.
She has talked about her father. So that's what we decided to do. And I found actually a copy of her signature in an image online. And so I was able to actually put Ada's signature at the bottom of the letter.
Neat.
And I started putting out these puzzles every month. And the thing that I told myself was, I'm not going to repeat a puzzle type.
Okay.
So every month, it's something
brand new kind of puzzle.
Brand new kind of puzzle.
You have been shown hundreds of new kinds of puzzles.
Right. Well, and I know lots myself. I can just brainstorm a set, but there's a whole world of these guys around now, not just in Japan, but all over the world.
Right.
And that's great because I can get them to come up with new ideas constantly, and I can just keep farming this thing. So that was 4.5 years ago. They've been coming out like clockwork every month since then. The current month is number 52.
Wow.
In this series. After 22 of them, the bookstore decided they wanted to use their resources differently, and I used to have my pillar in the bookstore that had my document thing on it and so forth. And they wanted to use that pillar and use the money they were paying for this feature for something else. And so I took it independent. Now I have a Patreon, so people can support the series. And they're all the past puzzles are available on the website.
That's not where I thought this story was going. Quite honestly, I thought this story was like, well, they kind of wanted to use different resources. And then I imagined the 30 or so people who are married to doing this thing every month losing their shit. Where is it? Why is there no puzzle this month?
And they were very nice. We parted ways on very, very
amicable
terms.
Sure.
In fact, I still run a monthly puzzle club where we meet at that bookstore every month.
And what's the Patreon?
So the Patreon is
probably linkable off of Pavel Puzzles.
It is. It's patreon.com/enigmas.
Spelled
AENIGMA. I think actually it's singular.
Okay.
Yeah. And
AEN is in Nancy, not M as in Mary.
That's right. So it's the word enigma,
right?
But with an extra A in front.
Excellent.
Because what I named the series when we started it was the Adalogical Enigma.
Oh, there you go.
And I wanted it both to start with an A.
Yes.
In effect, it really uses that AE ligature, that single character that's both an A and an E.
Oh, right. That thing.
An ash, I think it's called.
Oh, okay.
And so, there's been...
Right.
Ada has all sorts of affectations.
Have you ever gotten any guff from Ada? People who know her, they're like, this isn't really her.
I've
actually.
gotten a little bit.
Where you're like, is there an asterisk anyway that just goes, it's just named after that?
No, anybody who looks her up knows that she died 150 years ago.
Right, she's not still making puzzles,
she's not
you guys.
doing that.
Right. Fair enough.
I've done a fair amount of research on Ada. I know a fair amount about her. Had some spooky things happen. From the very, very beginning, my Ada, the voice that I heard in my head as I was writing out her first letter, she italicized words. She emphasized certain words. Just an overabundance of passion would come out in italicizing certain words, many more than the average person would do. In a single letter, there might be, 8 or 10 italicized words really making a point.
So it felt like
into it, 2 years into it, I got to see my first looks at actual handwritten letters of Ada's, of the real Ada. She underlined a ton of words in exactly the same places that I do.
Wow.
I have no idea.
Ada's, she's right there.
Yeah.
She's got your back.
She's got my back. She's got my back. So surely she is my Ada.
Right.
She's not the Ada.
Right.
And I correspond with a few other people who have done works based on Ada, and they have their Ada, and so forth. And we all just understand nobody gets to know the real Ada.
And all historical figures belong to all of us.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
You want some Caesar? You get some Caesar. Everybody gets
There you
Hamilton.
go.
The Hamilton you get.
Apparently everybody gets Hamilton.
Everybody gets
whether
Hamilton.
they want him or not. And so, so a couple years ago, 2.5 years ago, I took the series independent. It's continued to come out every month.
Is it still at that bookstore as well? Or
no, they don't stock it.
Okay.
Because that was a professional deal, right?
Right.
I'm using my IP; they'd have to pay me for it. And that's what
fair
they
enough.
Didn't want to do
Yeah.
anymore. And I put together a collection of the first 2 years of the puzzles, and so there's a book.
Oh, there's
that
a
puts
book
those
to
together.
do.
Yeah, so that's also available at my website.
Right.
And that includes the full solutions, and it includes author commentary.
are they upside down in the back?
They're in the back, but not upside down.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Always interested why they were upside down, but I don't mind.
Supposed to make it harder, but
It's like don't glimpse accidentally the accident.
Yeah.
The answer.
And then one of the things that Ada started doing, I always talk about her in the third person because I don't always feel like it's me in control.
Fair enough.
But around the 8th puzzle in the series, Ada started hiding secret messages on the page. Totally aside from the puzzle that's right there.
Right.
And some mechanism for
It
extracting
isn't
a
by
final
Ovaltine,
answer.
is it?
It's not in our case by Ovaltine. Is different all time.
Okay.
And so these are sometimes in video games or other things, they're sometimes called Easter eggs.
Yeah.
And so in the bottom right corner of the page, there is now always a little tiny egg shape with a small number inside telling you how many totally optional, you don't need to know these to solve the puzzle, they're not related to that, extra Easter eggs there are. And they vary a lot. There are some months when we don't fit one in, and there are other months when there are 6 special messages in there.
Fair enough.
And so the book has complete explanations of all of the Easter eggs from the first 2 years of the series, and a variety of other bonus material that's in there. But I'm starting to think about the second book.
A compilation, because
we've got 52 now. And,
right. And the first book just had 24?
Had 24 in it.
Okay.
It was a pretty solid amount. These are, we say on the cover of the book, I say we because it's really me and Ada. I mean, there's not a lot of other people involved. So clearly there is some psychological damage here. I don't know. Really.
But congratulations for this sort of self-awareness.
The book swaps back and forth between the two of us talking.
Oh my God.
At different points.
Well
It's
played.
really
Well played, I say. Own it and run with it, Pavel.
And so, so the book had extra Easter eggs in it. There were Easter eggs that are embedded across the entire book, so that was fun.
This is going to be great for the resistance. You'll be a Hogan's Heroes-like moment. Right.
So we say on the cover of the book that the puzzles range from challenging to exceedingly difficult.
Wow. Okay.
There are no easy puzzles.
There are no easy puzzles.
They're all going to take some challenge.
So if people love hard puzzles,
tough puzzles,
this is neat.
Oh, if you love hard puzzles, this is absolutely the series for you. Because
right.
All of them are above medium.
And so,
really,
are there places do you have deals with other coffee shops?
So I've talked to a number of coffee shops, and I've talked to some people on the cruise, a game store, bookstore, and other things. There's an interesting thing about coffee shops in particular, and the interesting thing is that coffee is mostly water.
Oh, right, and paper is mostly spottable.
Right, and so it's the margins are different.
Yeah.
Right. If you're a bookstore owner, your margins are razor thin.
Yeah.
And if you're a cafe bookstore, the reason you're a cafe bookstore is because the cafe is much higher
More lucrative?
margins.
Yeah.
And it can pay for the bookstore.
Right.
So it's not always clear who can afford to do this. There's a game store, actually a set of game stores in Washington State, who one of their leader type folks, owners, is really keen to get the Enigma into their stores as a feature.
Right.
Because it brings back repeat business. Even if it's a cafe and you're sitting there for an hour,
Yeah.
most of these puzzles you won't succeed in solving in an hour.
Right.
It'll take longer, which means you have to take it home with you, which means that when you've solved it, you got to come back.
You got to come back.
Repeat business, man.
That's it.
That's what it's about. And so it's all about trying to bring the people back
Yeah.
into the store. And so I would like to expand it into more things.
Right. The variety of bookstores that are available is obviously a good idea, but the coffee shop, I think, because it's monthly, would be such a better idea. But because I'm thinking about game stores and bookstores and comic book stores and
we now see board game cafes.
Yeah.
Right. They seem like a really perfect thing. They have the cafe margins.
Yeah,
They're
Game
bringing
House
but they're
in
bringing in game
Glendale.
players.
Yeah.
And so they're a great sort of match for it. Haven't yet made the
crack that nut.
connection.
Yeah.
Well, we can say crack the nut, and it's true, but I'm not the world's best businessman. I don't spend a lot of my time.
It turns out you're making puzzles.
I'm making puzzles.
You're making puzzles. Sales is a different. It's almost marketing is a different.
And
apple.
I got to do that because it's a one-man shop.
Right.
And so
It's a
forth.
one-man
I'm
band.
okay at it.
Yeah.
But there's just only so many hours in the day, and
Right.
and it's almost the end of the month. I got another puzzle. It's got to come out on March 1st.
Exactly. right. And but you were talking about escape rooms and board game cafes sound like sort of
They're great options.
would be kind of the best options.
Yeah, it's actually,
and they aren't
That's so funny. I never even thought about approaching my board game, my escape room friends,
right
to host the thing.
because what if there's a line?
They have lots of stuff. I have
Because if you got to
you got to
wait for
who
the
have copies of my puzzles that they've bought.
Yeah.
To put in the waiting area
For
and that they
people to
sell
play.
to people who as in their little gift shop.
Mm-hmm.
And so that connection I'd made, but obviously I'm such a terrible business person. It had never occurred to me that the whole logic puzzle thing might work
it's like
there
your
too.
co-op. It's like your co-op game. You need more eyes on the
See, I
on
do.
the thing.
I do.
That's
I
it.
need a whole staff. That's what I need.
You're doing vital
So
work
long
here
as
to some
long as
extent,
they
Pavel
won't,
Curtis.
want pay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh, right. You're like, I'm going to need some cash to keep doing this, and then
That's
we have
right.
printing at least.
That's right.
So, but if people want to, they can go to Pavel Puzzles and
Pavel's
get
Puzzles.
Pavels with a plural.
Oh yeah.
Pavels?
Oh yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's
Pavel's
Pavel's
Puzzles.
Puzzles.
There we go. PavelsPuzzles.com, and on there it'll be linkable. The Patreon will be linkable.
The Patreon is linkable. The logic puzzles in the upper left corner of the page. There's a picture of Ada Lovelace.
Oh, there you go.
And a whole little link off to the area that's about the logic puzzles.
Neat. And the Enigma ones. Those are the physical ones.
No, the Enigmas are the logic puzzles.
Oh, those are the lot. Oh, that's right, because A
Logical,
Enigma.
right,
Yeah, got it.
right.
And then what about the physical? Is there a
Physical puzzles are the whole rest of the
rest of the page,
the main page,
the website?
Yeah.
Okay, fair
Of the
enough.
page, yeah.
And
the puzzle, the website was originally about the physical puzzles.
oh, right. Okay, so
but I couldn't stop doing things, and so now it's all sorts of
right.
things.
So now it's many things that are.
So I end up doing physical puzzles. I do commissioned work, as we talked about, for both physical puzzles and paper and pencil puzzles. I've got this series going. There's a second series related to the Enigmas that people kept saying, "This is great. I did this puzzle. It was the only time I've ever seen this puzzle type, and now I'm done. And there isn't another puzzle of that type.
Is there another
Where do I
puzzle
go?"
of that type?
And so I decided, I did a Kickstarter for the book last year, year before.
Okay.
And the stretch goals for that were to kick off a new up to monthly series of puzzles like the Enigma from guest constructors.
Oh, there you go.
Because if I signed up to do another one every month, I'd be
There's no
divorced.
sleeping. Yeah, exactly.
She'd kick me out. It would be bad.
She's done.
So I have a whole lineup of guest constructors who have been making these kinds of puzzles, and they want to come in, create a puzzle here. It gets a letter from Ada to introduce it.
Neat.
And they get pointers from the thing and so forth. And so that's called the enigmatic, spelled with the A, of course.
Right.
The enigmatic addenda.
Oh, there you go. Fair enough. A little while I was doing dork addendums, and then I got too busy.
Yeah.
So that'll happen.
That's how that happens, yeah.
Right. So here we are. We're at an hour, Pavel, is what you should know. And we've barely scratched the surface
This is
of
an
puzzles.
itch that always scratches.
Exactly. It's there are hours to be talked about.
Totally.
But if people go to pavelspuzzles.com,
They'll find
you can,
everything.
Yeah, they can find everything.
Yeah.
And you're at Pavel Curtis on
Twitter.
On Twitter. And there's a Facebook.
Facebook.com/PavelsPuzzles.
Yep.
You can find everything about me.
And you guys, Joe Cooker's pretty fun. If you guys like
Totally.
a bunch of you want to meet some like-minded nerds. Holy smokes! There's 1,700 various kinds of nerds
Oh
on
my
this.
God, nerdery of every possible flavor.
The Dorkdoms, I could do 1,700 episodes. Is what I'm saying. And this has been a great one. So thank you so much for doing the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, and Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?